So today we have with us Misha Kotov. Misha is the principal product manager, and Misha is gonna share some updates for Adobe Commerce, Magento Open Source. Welcome, Misha, and please take it away.
Yeah, that sounds good. Hey, everyone. I've got some content to share that's pertinent to Adobe Commerce specifically. I was asking for Rule if that is fair game for this forum, and she told me yes. So I am here to share a little bit of information about one of our new initiatives that we're calling Storefront Services. The name might change, but that really won't matter. We're calling them Storefront Services because they will be SaaS services supporting and enabling better performance of our storefront implementations. So to give some context, I'm going to approach it from the angle of storefront performance and scalability, and I want to make sure that everyone understands, like, we are talking about storefront and not anything in the back end. We're not talking about like management of products or entities in the admin grids, none of that. So we're talking about specifically the storefront, right? So to kind of describe the current state of our platform, we kind of think about three pillars under performance. So one is kind of performance itself, and this has to do with basically like page load times, right? Today, by our own benchmarks, the loading of catalog data for the use of on storefront sets at around 2 seconds. And of course, there's some qualifiers and some variables here in terms of like complexity of queries, et cetera. But by our own benchmarks, the median response time for catalog data is about 2 seconds, meaning about half of the requests today take longer than 2 seconds, right? So 2 seconds plus, which the impact of this is that slow page load times obviously dramatically reduce site conversion. And there's been a ton of different studies done on this by a bunch of different organizations, but basically it comes down to, right, the slower your pages load on your e-commerce site, the worse you can expect conversion to be. And the faster your site is, the better you can expect conversion to be. The second one is scalability. So here, I think everyone knows about the term effective SKUs. We all wish that we didn't have to deal with this, but it's a reality of the current state of the platform. So effective SKUs is a term that we use to describe the number of SKUs or number of products in the platform times the number of websites that you have times the number of customer groups. And we have to deal with this because we denormalize data in a certain way, and denormalization of data basically results in just some massive number of rows in the database tables, right? And it's hard for our product to manage that today. So we have some best practices in terms of limitations on how many of each of these entities you can have, but also there's separate kind of best practice limitations around the number of categories you should have in commerce, number of product, attributes, custom options, customer groups, etc. And the reality is that these limitations hinder our customers' ability to run their business on commerce, on our platform, right? Which is also not very good. And the last one is reliability. Here we talk about sometimes we talk about our cloud platform, right? We lack an auto scaling feature today. This results in kind of manual cloud upsizing, downsizing of resources. But also here we talk about how our features are deployed. So as you all know, we started building new features, new commerce features that are deployed as SaaS, right? So examples are product recommendations, live search, payment services as well. And so the impact of having a reliable product, right, is in commerce, any amount of downtime is basically not really acceptable. It results in lost revenue. And so this makes us think about how to deploy features in the future, right? So whether we build them in the PHP monolith, whether we build them as SaaS, we build them in some other way. So this kind of describes some limitations or issues, if you will, of the performance of current state. And we started thinking about how to leverage our existing SaaS capabilities to address some of these concerns. And we started with catalog. So catalog domain, this is, as you all know, kind of the most complex and most beefy part of our platform. And again, I want to specify that we're talking about like catalog data for storefront, right? And to kind of ground us, I like to show this diagram. It's a bit much, but if you focus on the yellow parts first, the yellow parts indicate kind of like the current state. So with the emergence of headless applications, PWAs, AEM as well, custom implementations, we have this kind of decoupled architecture, right? So we have the monolith at the bottom, and then we have the storefront or the client at the top making requests. And in order for the storefront to render experiences, we need to fetch data from the monolith, right? And we generally do that using our GraphQL layer. And the existing GraphQL layer is designated here by core GraphQL, right? And these GraphQL queries, they fetch data to render, to paint these experiences on the storefront. The reality of these current queries is that the latency is not very good. Like I described, we've measured the products to be at around 2 seconds, which is not great. So we started thinking about how to use our established design patterns to make the situation better and to reduce this latency. And so the general idea is to put the data that lives in monolith, copy over to some storage where we can retrieve it very quickly, right, much faster. And this kind of design pattern has been around for a long time. I know even in the M1 days, our community has built solutions that are basically extremely similar, where I don't know exactly what they were called, but I know there's patterns where SIs, and there's solutions out there that index commerce data into repositories or storage solutions like Elasticsearch, and then it's extremely fast. You have extremely fast retrieval times from there. So this is basically a very similar pattern. Again, the idea is to index data from the monolith into our SaaS systems. And then from there, we build services on top of those where you can call APIs and get this data in an extremely performant manner. So we're starting today with a service we're calling Catalog Storefront Service. Again, the name is subject to change because we have marketing and branding teams that like to voice their opinions on how things are named. But for the purposes of this presentation, I'm going to call it Catalog Storefront Service. It's pretty self-descriptive, in my opinion. So this data will be able to be fetched by an additional GraphQL API surface. So it's intentional that it sits next to the core GraphQL API surface. It'll be additional and it'll be optional to consume it, right? We're not going to force anyone to adopt it, but if you are interested in realizing some performance benefits, then it'll be there available. The only thing is that it probably shouldn't be larger than the core GraphQL surface. It's a thing. Box should probably be slightly smaller. That's the only thing about this diagram. And in the future, we were thinking about kind of the broader picture beyond catalog. We may build some other additional kind of service domains, right? Things like customer, things like tax, pricing, et cetera, et cetera. So the holistic set of these services we're calling right now, calling Storefront Services. Services because they will be built as multi-tenant SaaS services. So that's the general idea.
Mishak, may I have a question, if that's okay?
Yeah, please jump in.
So for the first time, there'll be latency, but for the second time, because you're indexing the data back into the new design, so if next time there will be less latency, but for the very first call, there'll be a defined latency, right?
No, the latency should be the same for all the calls. If you're talking about the indexation piece, like that is something that runs separate. It's a separate process. There's basically like I simplified it with the indexation arrow, but it's basically like a whole kind of export pipeline that we have that will index data from the monolith. So the way to dive into that a little bit, the way that it works today, and it actually like that piece actually exists today for features like product recommendations and search. When a merchant first onboards and starts, installs the necessary components to make this work, there's kind of like an initial load of catalog data, right? Right. Like a bulk upload, if you will, and then from then on, there's like an ongoing process. It's just deployed as cron that listens for changes in products, and then it sends product deltas effectively into our SaaS systems. So once the data is in SaaS, there's no, like, the first call is basically the same as any other call. I mean, there will be some maybe I'm not exactly 100% sure on how like maybe caching works. I think like some of these storage systems do have like built-in caching. So maybe like there's a very small difference in the first call versus others. That's possible. But as far as using and like invoking the service from then on, it should be relatively fast the whole time.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you.
Cool. Of course. Yeah, and feel free to jump in, by the way, with questions. And this is kind of an informal conversational session, so feel free to do that. Cool. So let me keep going here, just to level set on like the purpose of this new service, right? Is to provide rich view model catalog data to fully render these product-related storefront experiences. And to unpack that a little bit, what do we mean by view model catalog data? Well, we just mean that it's another name for the service could be a catalog projection service, because we basically we denormalize data and we store it in these systems, and then where it's easy and very fast to retrieve, right? So we support view operations, basically like view or get operations, but we're not going to support any like mutations or any sort of like write operations, right? So what do we mean by product-related storefront experiences? That's kind of a mouthful. So we mean shopper experiences, right? Like product detail pages, category pages, search results. These are called PDPs and PLPs sometimes, where you just need to fetch some data and then you paint the page, right? So beyond those, you can invoke the service, use the service to power things like product carousels and really any other place where product data is displayed on the storefront, right? So things like product data in your cart or mini cart, right? Product data like line items and orders or wish list or product compare, all those things where product data appears. And I think I've already mentioned this, but this is like the new service will be built on an existing SaaS foundation. We have most of this in place already, and if anyone has experience with like product recommendations, live search, effectively like that pipeline, the indexation pipeline is built, and we're reusing a lot of the patterns that have worked really well for those features. This service can work standalone or together with existing application services, so with existing features. So a standalone use case is basically PDP, right? You can provide a SKU to the service, and it will respond with kind of like a full product data model that allows you to paint the PDP, for example. And it can work kind of conjointly with the existing features like recommendations and live search. When those services return product data today, the product data representation of a product may not be exactly complete. We know we have the data you'll need like 99% of the time, but sometimes you need some additional data that we may not have today. So this is where this additional service can be invoked to provide additional product data. And as an example, like today, neither recommendations nor search provide ratings and reviews data as an example. So that's something that this new service can take on and provide for these services. So what we're looking to go back to the issues or limitations that I described in the beginning, right? That are relative to performance scalability. We are looking to improve performance quite a bit. So we're looking to make it almost 10x faster. This is kind of our aspirational goal, but we're hoping we can make this work in under 200 milliseconds round trip from the browser, which is going to be deliver a 10x improvement, which would be great. And we talked about how this improvement should translate to a conversion rate increase for our customers. We're looking to solve some of these ESKU limitations and B2B at scale. And when we say B2B, it normally means number of customer groups, number of price books, customer specific pricing, customer specific visibility rules, like category permissions and shared catalogs, things like that. We're actually looking to some of the bottlenecks today have to do with the current indexers. So the indexers for like categories, for pricing indexer, and what's the other one? The category permission indexer are basically like we've identified those as bottlenecks, and we'll be looking to either refactor them or remove them from the chain completely, so that we can minimize the amount of time that it takes for us to reflect a change on the storefront. So this near real-time sync of product changes to storefront right? What that means is if we go back to this indexation arrow, the PHP monolith remains the system of record for any sort of like product management or creation, right? This is where products are updated or added. But so once the product is changed, right, we need to, like, it's in our best interest to minimize the amount of time that it goes through indexation and into our SaaS systems. And then when a storefront requests a product, right, we want to make sure that the change is reflected as fast as we possibly can. So today, again, the pipeline is in place. I think today we're on the order of magnitude of minutes to reflect the change, but we're going to try to get that down, hopefully, somewhere in the seconds range, maybe like 1 or 2 minutes. We'll see. But the indexers in the monolith are actually a big part of the problem. We're looking to resolve that. And to come back to the last pillar on the slide, this will be deployed as a multi-tenant SaaS service. Like I said, for greater stability, we've seen a good, really good response and success rate so far with our existing SaaS services. So we are learning our lessons there and are building kind of on this robust foundation that has served us really well so far. So for the existing services, I can actually mention this, like recommendations are being served, product recommendations are being served on a few hundred sites today, live in production. And search is also gaining adoption. Sorry, live search specifically is gaining adoption really quickly. So they'll be in the hundreds soon. And we've seen, like I said, we've seen really good kind of stability and reliability of those services. Okay, so this is the fun part, right? Like when is this available? So today we are in active design and development with the team. We're working on spreading awareness, as I am right now, with partners and merchants. We're trying to identify early adopters who would be good fits for the program. So in Q3, we're looking to go live with beta. Fidelity will be a little bit limited. It won't be a fully productionalized service, but definitely enough to play around with and see how it can be consumed. And we're looking to GA in Q4. I mean, these are not exactly super committed timelines, but these are our target dates. And obviously, as soon as we have our GA, we're going to be looking to GA++, work on improvements, enhancements, et cetera, react to customer feedback. And of course, at the end of November, we have our holiday season here in US. In terms of the Black Friday, Cyber Monday deals, those are most taxing periods of our year a lot of the time. So ideally, we have somebody using some of these new services in production so that we can monitor and track and see how they perform, and actually take some load off of the monolith for these traffic spikes, right? Because if somebody has implemented and built on the service, then the service is responsible for serving a lot of the shopping experiences during these high peak seasons, and therefore the monolith has less to do, right? Normally the monolith is responsible for fulfilling these requests that come in from the shoppers, but if you've implemented kind of this paradigm, right, if you built on this architecture, then the monolith has less to do and it's less susceptible to traffic peaks, because the responsibility is then on the service that Adobe manages, right? Adobe manages and scales and maintains. So for beta, just a couple things. Again, to repeat what I said in the very beginning, this will be a Adobe Commerce licensed feature only, or it's for licensed merchants, that is, just like our other existing SaaS features as well. It'll also, if you look at the bottom, it'll also be kind of deployed, has the same cost structure, which means like it's basically free for the licensed merchants. There's no additional fees. It'll be included in the commerce license, so you don't have to pay anything additional. It's free for them. Ideally, the merchants for best fit would be some sort of a headless implementation, whether it's a PWA, AEM, some custom written storefront that uses GraphQL today. And the reason is, again, because like to go back to the diagram, right? This is kind of designed to be used in this decoupled architecture where the monolith and the storefront are decoupled. And so headless cases are the best here. We have heard the question about how, like, whether this would be possible to consume in Luma implementations, or basically like the classic storefront, or I don't know what else to call it. So it may be possible, but like Luma implementations will not be our first target audience, so to speak. But we are considering basically making some sort of a PHP SDK to help consume the service, even in like Luma-based implementations. So that way, it's a little bit easier to invoke a service, get data back, and then somehow render these experiences in those types of implementations as well. But headless is kind of our first priority because it's kind of a better fit for those merchants that consume GraphQL today. Good fits are those merchants that have maybe voiced concerns about performance in the past, specifically storefront performance. They want to or looking to invest in performance solutions, such as this one. For SIs or our partners, we're talking to a few already. They seem to kind of validate that these are the problems that we're solving are real problems, and they see this in the real world with real customers. So we're looking for someone who's willing to spend some time on evaluating these solutions and provide feedback to us. Again, we're looking to go to beta around August, so the duration will be about 1 or 2 months. We're planning for 1 to 2 months right now, so it's kind of a time box exercise here. And then again, there's no cost to consume the service. Both partners and merchants, like licensed merchants and partners who have agreements with us are entitled to use this new service. That is it for my presentation. Do we have any questions about this new Storefront Services initiative?
No. I don't see anything on the chat, but yeah, I mean, if anybody has, please feel free to ask your question to Misha. And Misha, can I request you to please give your email ID on the chat so that, if anybody is interested in beta opportunity and if you have any questions related to that, you can reach out to Misha directly.
Yeah, absolutely. I did think that I probably should provide some sort of CTA or action item here for those who are curious and maybe want to reach out, or any of our partners on the line, or you have merchants who would benefit from this. For sure. So you can reach out to me. I will probably most likely be creating a channel in our community workspace as well. So let me type in my email here, and then I'll probably do an announcement here soon in Slack on the announcements. I know there's a performance channel too that I didn't know existed, so I'll probably be posting it there as well if you want to get more information and find this the channel once we make it.
Awesome. Sounds great. So if nobody has any questions, I would like to put a quick plug for our community newsletters. Let me share my screen real quick. So if you have not subscribed to the community newsletters, which is through the news and announcements tab on the forum, please do so, because every month we are publishing the newsletters, and you would have a lot of information coming into it, all the upcoming beta opportunities, latest releases. So how do you do that? Basically, when you go to community forum, here under news and announcements, you would see these 3 dots, options. So make sure that you hit subscribe. So I mean, obviously, because I'm subscribed, I see unsubscribe, but if you're not, you should see a subscribe button here. And that way you would be getting notifications whenever the newsletter is published.
Parul, do you want to throw a link in the chat here so that it's easy for people to access?
Absolutely. Yep. And actually, I'm going to put the link for the April newsletter, just so that if you haven't had a chance to have a look at it, you can do so. Okay, and I would also like to, just throw it out there that if you want to participate, if you want to present in this Hangout, please feel free to reach out to me. We would love to have you as a speaker on these Hangout sessions. So don't hesitate, just let me know, and we'll schedule something soon. We got about 3 minutes left. Any questions? Any last comments? Anybody? Well, if not, thank you for joining, everyone, and I hope to see you all next time. I'll hang out here for a couple of more minutes if anybody has anything. Otherwise, have a great Wednesday and have a great rest of your week. Bye.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.